Hi everyone. My name is Patty Plant, aka Patricia Hanbidge, horticulturist, and very experienced in working in the field for many years all over the world. I'd like to welcome you to my home, my garden, and all my indoor grow spaces. Today, if you don't know, is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. Now, I don't know if you've ever done anything with Earth Day in your lives in the past, but now you've had 50 years to think about it. Earth Day started actually 50 years ago in 1970. It was the brainchild of a former senator of the United States, I believe in the state of Wisconsin, Gaylord Nelson. And what he thought was important was to drive awareness of pollution in the Americas and, of course, around the world as well. And he set April 22nd as Earth Day because he wanted to be able to have a teach-in of students in university campuses across the country and have the biggest impact on those students and hopefully drive world awareness of what pollution was doing to our world. So it's kind of interesting, and it does tie into what's happening with us in the world today, because scientists have been doing a lot of research and have found that people in polluted areas are more susceptible to more dire consequences when they get a viral disease or influenza in particular. So it is kind of interesting, and it does give us a little bit of food for thought. So, I mean, thinking back to the first Earth Day, which I don't remember, I'm too young for that, but thinking back to what was happening at that time, there's a lot of protests around the world. In 1962, there was a really cool book that was published, Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. So this book is a great read. If you don't want to read the hard copy, it's also available online as a download for free. And it was kind of the beginning of the modern environmental movement, and Rachel Carson was a biologist, a marine biologist, I believe, that was really concerned with what was happening in the world. And throughout the book, it talks about a lot of different things, and in some ways, it's DDT in particular, and in a lot of ways, some of the things that she's talking about maybe aren't very positive, but taking action from what was happening in those days is definitely something very, very positive. So around that time, they were dealing with the Vietnam War. There's a lot of things happening, and by coining April 22nd every year as Earth Day, it was an opportunity to share kind of a global get-together of people to make a difference in the world that we live in. So with COVID-19 and all the things that are happening around the world with that, it gives us food for thought, because the data is coming in that polluted areas do have an effect on influenza, and as COVID is an influenza type of virus, it is something that's important for us to think about. And so that, of course, drives us to climate change, which is a direct result in a lot of cases, of pollution. Hi, Vicky, nice to see you. Anyway, pollution is something that is of great concern, and climate change is a result of a lot of things that have been happening in the world with normal evolution and the industrial age and all those kind of things. And since we've all been more sequestered at home, emissions worldwide have actually declined substantially. And it is estimated that the reduction of pollution in China has actually saved more deaths than those that have died due to COVID-19. So that's kind of an interesting thing to think about. And, seeing as how today is Earth Day, it's a good opportunity to just pause for a moment and think about what it is that we are doing and how we can impact the world. And when we think about individuals, we think, oh well, it doesn't really matter what I do, because I'm only one of millions. But if you can think about that in a little bit different fashion, if one person makes a change, and then the other people that might be living with that person or around that person as friends or neighbors might collectively then make a change, and as that expands and grows, we can have a real impact on what happens not only in our individual lives, our individual properties, homes, lands, but then collectively as villages and cities and towns and eventually nations, and hopefully eventually the world. So it is something that is important to think about, and decisions that we make every day in our lives have a huge effect on what's happening in the future. So I ask you just to stop and think, and not just on April 22nd, but every day, about what your actions are doing to, what's happening down the road. Because I'm a grandmother now, thankfully. It's exciting. And I think of what the world might be like when my grandchild grows up, and we don't really know. If we think 50 years ago, the Vietnam War and the protests and all the things that were happening then. And if you look at the effect of COVID and what it's doing to us in the world right now, well, oh my goodness, we haven't seen this kind of effect since World War II. So it is something to give thought to. And when we think about that, we think about the importance of growing food. And this Grow channel and my channel on YouTube, Grow, is all about growing and growing yourself and your knowledge and your passion, and for goodness sakes, sharing that growing food is important. So what are you going to do today to celebrate Earth Day? There's a lot of things you could do. I did actually bring a little something to show you. This little bowl full of nuts actually are from my Ohio Buckeye tree. So you might have never seen an Ohio Buckeye tree, but it is something that is not growing enough. And these are actually the seeds out of the conkers, and those conkers are the final result of beautiful flowers. The tree is a massive tree. It has a taproot. And you might say, well, holy smokes, what's a taproot? And a taproot is the root, or the main root of the tree actually grows like a carrot. So it grows very deeply and can access different aquifers that a lot of trees with spreading root systems can't access. So I was trying to think of some things that I could do today and maybe share with some of the people that are around me. And of course, what came to mind is to plant these Ohio Buckeye seeds. And one of the most important things that you can do on Earth Day or any spring day is plant a tree. Trees are these wonderful carbon storage units that clean the air and massively keep our world in a beautiful, more sustainable situation. And instead of tearing down the trees and building cities and towns and replanting the trees, it's a good idea to preserve our landscape and to build the future in a sustainable fashion. So these I picked in about 5 minutes. They had fallen out of my Ohio Buckeye tree on the ground, and I simply just pick them up. They've actually already been outside for the winter, so they've got their treatment, their cold treatment, which will allow them to germinate. And my granddaughter and I are going to go out and do some planting, and whether it's Johnny Appleseed or whomever, planting these trees is going to make a future for us. And I challenge you to do something wonderful today on Earth Day and maybe try to do something wonderful every day, or at least every second day. And you know, the Earth Day, their focus is to build the world with hope, optimism, and action. So today on Earth Day and every day until, I don't know, till forever, let's do something that's positive and wonderful, that makes our world a better place. And you know, having transformational change in our world is going to make a big difference, and it is going to make the world of our future a better place than it is today. And that's a pretty bold thought that is actually very reachable. So I'd like to thank you for joining me today for Grow Live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to share something with you about growing. You know, today, because it's a special day and the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, I figured that we should talk about Earth Day, and we should talk about some of the wonderful things you can do. And to me, one of the most amazing things that you can do is plant a tree. And the wisest men and the most sustainable and thoughtful thoughts are planting a tree that you may not see grow to its final stand. So that's a pretty profound thing to think about too. So anyways, thank you for joining me. You can catch me 1 p.m. CST on Grow Live, and you can catch me anytime on my YouTube channel, Grow. So thank you again for taking some time out of your day or night whenever you're watching this video. Stay safe, be happy, and let's get growing.